It's our turn, episode number 49, Amazing Art in Games. In this episode, Sarah and I talk about amazing art in games, and I talk with Tara Clapper from the Geek Initiative about her online live-action role-playing game called Chariot LARP.
This is the Dice Tower Network, adding games to your wish list since 2005.
Hosting for this episode is generously provided by our fantastic patrons on Patreon.com. As a thank you to our patrons, we post extra exclusive content just for them. If you'd like to help us out by pledging $1 per month or more, please visit patreon.com/OurTurnPodcast. Every dollar helps to keep this show going strong. Hi, and welcome back to Our Turn, Women on Gaming. This is Kathy Ford.
And this is Sarah Reed.
Hi, Sarah. How's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing, Kathy?
I am doing fantastic. It's been a wonderful week.
Yay!
So why don't we go ahead and get started with talking about what we've been playing this week. Do you want to start off?
Sure. So I finally got Vast, the Crystal Caverns to the table.
I am so jealous.
Yeah, this is one where I have to admit, a little nervous about getting to. But, well, let me just get into it and then you'll see what I think about it.
Okay.
So Vast Crystal Caverns is designed by David Somerville and Patrick Leder, art by Kyle Farron, and then published by Leder Games in 2016. It plays 1 to 5 players in about 60-90 minutes. So Vast is a completely asymmetric game. It's a good one. I just didn't think it was possible. So many games have asymmetric powers, but everyone's goal in the game is exactly the same. Or there's one versus many kinds of games where one person has a set of goals and the rest of the players have another set of goals. So I have to admit, I was very wary of Vast when I first saw it on Kickstarter. And in fact, I did not back the first Kickstarter.
What?
I did not.
What?
I was not on the cutting edge.
Oh my goodness.
Will and I looked at it and we saw the potential for both success and failure. And at that point, we weren't sure which way it was going to go. The other thing is, I have not liked most of the 1 versus many games I've played, which is the closest to what this is. And so we decided just not try it, wait for it to come out, see what people say, watch videos.
Try somebody else's copy.
Exactly. Well, we never did get a chance to try somebody else's copy. What happened is they did a second Kickstarter. So we saw lots of people were enjoying it. They said it was a solid asymmetric game, and they said it was mechanically strong. And that's really what we were worried about. Because not to kick thematic games, but some thematic games get a little big in the britches when it comes to mechanics. They throw everything in, and it works through sheer force of will, which works for some. But for something like this, where everybody's got a different set of goals, it really has to be balanced and mechanically strong. So once the second Kickstarter came out, it was for the base game plus there's an expansion. I was like, wait, was there an expansion? I know there's new miniatures. Yeah, there's an expansion. More characters that you can play in the game. So we finally got it to the table. And I have to say, it is very solid. I still don't know how I feel about it.
Oh?
Yeah. Well, in the game that Will and we played twice, but we both played the same character. So Will played the knight, I played the dragon, which is what they recommend for a first game.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you didn't want to play the cave?
I would have, but I decided since this was a bit more than I'm comfortable with, I was going to take their advice, and they said the cave and the thief are advanced characters.
Okay.
Don't play them until you've got an understanding, not that you can really understand how the game plays when you've just played one character, but you understand a bit more of the interactions.
Sure.
So, Will played the knight, I played the dragon. And so for those who are not aware, this is kind of your basic, adventure through a cave. And each player plays a different role with a different victory condition, and only one person can win. So, the knight has to kill the dragon. So the knight gains powers by completing side quests and recovering lost treasures. The dragon has to wake up and escape through the entrance. The dragon starts out really slow, but wakes up as he steals treasures, devours goblins, explores the cave, and he does this by playing cards to fuel various powers. Now, when there are certain characters not in the game, you have replacement mechanisms that are not quite the same as if a player was actually playing that role. So with the knight versus dragon, it really felt to me, and we played it twice, and I lost as a dragon twice. I did get better in the second game, but there was still, I could not see a way to win as the dragon, which means two things. Well, mostly it means it's not the character for me. I don't think that way. And that's the thing about this game that I was worried about, is each role has a different way to win, which is very focused. And if it doesn't match your play style or the way you think, you're going to struggle with it. And so that's what it was. I struggled playing the dragon. I couldn't figure out how to evade the knight. There was nobody there to bother the knight. I talked to somebody who played it 5-player, and they actually said the person who was the dragon won easily.
Oh, okay.
And that's because if there's goblins, the goblins have to kill the knight. So the goblins are bothering the knight, distracting the knight from killing the dragon. And the goblins have 3 tribes, and they have a push your luck mechanism, which I don't know because I haven't looked at the rules for that character. But basically, they try to corner the knight. Now, on top of that, as you've mentioned, there's the cave. So the cave has to fully expand and then collapse. So it is possible when there isn't someone playing the cave, it is possible for everybody to lose if no one gets their objective before the cave expands and then collapses. So that's kind of interesting. And then lastly, there's the thief. The thief is also one of the advanced characters. They have to steal treasures to get free. They're sneaking around, stealing treasure from other players, and then has to get back to the entrance to escape. So there's too much to go into detail of how everybody works, but that's kind of the gist of what they do. And everybody basically gets their own sheet that explains how they play the game. So there's not really a way to teach everybody how to play unless you've played a particular character before. Then you can teach someone here. This is like if I were to play with someone who's going to play the dragon, and I could teach them what I understand of it, and hopefully they get it better. Like I said, we've played it twice. I just need to play it more. And it's hard to get to the table because it's a longer game. When we play again, we'll have to learn new rules. I'm thinking maybe I'll try the goblins. That might work for me. I'm not sure. I mean, it does work that you can play any 2 characters. They don't necessarily recommend certain combinations, but they have it set up in the game that you could choose any, like a 2-player game, any 2 roles. You can play the cave and the thief. And then it has stand-in mechanisms for all the other characters that are not being played. So it is a solid, completely asymmetric game, which I've never seen before. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I've just never seen it before. I just can't say I fully liked it, so I can only give it a 3.5, but it is mechanically strong. I just need to try some of the other characters to see if they fit me. There's also the expansion, which adds like 3 more characters to try. So lots of replayability here, and then hopefully we can also play it with more players, because maybe as much as you can play it 2-player, maybe it's not the best. So my friend who played it 5-player said it was too crazy because everybody was learning how to play the game, and they weren't sure anyone was getting the rules right. So it's one of those games that's going to be hard to get to the table with anybody that doesn't already know how to play the character that they're going to play.
Huh. I was thinking that this sounded like the type of game where you needed to play it at full strength.
And maybe
full player strength.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just one of those games where you get a group together and you say, okay, we're going to play this, and then we'll come back together next time and we'll play it again.
Yes.
And everybody, once everybody gets it, then you can start trading around characters and, experimenting with who plays what. It did not strike me that this would be a good 2-player game, which is one reason why Mark and I haven't gotten it, because we do a lot of playing 2-player games.
Will and I bought this for the game designers and us. We felt that we needed to learn how this works. Not that we're ever going to try to build anything like this, but as a game designer...
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. You do. You never know. But as a game designer, if we want to challenge ourselves to grow, we need to play games that we wouldn't necessarily like so we can learn from them, even if what we learn is, we don't like that. So if that's what we learn, that's what we learn. But I don't know. There's some very interesting things in here. And so I'm looking forward to playing it more. But I think if I had to say anything right now, I would caution against buying it if you're going to play it mostly 2 players, because I don't think it's going to be great. It's just if you are going to play with the 5-player, maybe you either just got to get through that learning curve, which is just going to be difficult. But like you said, play it once, just trip all over it, get it back to the table again. Everyone plays the same exact role, read the rules again, and, maybe something will click, something like that. So I'm definitely still keeping it. I mean, we're still waiting for the miniatures to come. Although it comes with meeples, and I gotta say I like the meeples better, but I haven't seen the miniatures in person, so maybe I'll change my mind, but I do love meeples.
All right. Well, yeah, that's a game that I definitely want to try. But like I said, because I haven't heard anything good about it being a 2-player game, I have heard that it's a good game.
Yes.
And I've heard it's a unique game.
Yes.
And that there hasn't been anything like it before, exactly like it. So, and I like the theme. I like the fantasy theme. That's usually a fun game.
Yeah.
With a fantasy theme.
And it's a pretty basic concept. Just the implementation of it is so different from anything else. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, maybe that's another one we'll got to put on our list to play together.
When we all get together, right?
Yeah.
Right. Which we are in December. So,
yes.
We're all going over to Sarah's house just before Christmas.
Yes. So,
to have dinner together and play some games. So, that should be fun. Maybe we can get that one on the table.
That would be cool.
Are you keeping a list of all the games we said we need to play the next time we get together?
No, because you look at my shelves, there's probably every game on there, almost every game you'd want to get to the table. So, no, I figure when we actually physically get together, we're going to check our brains. What do we feel like we can handle? And pick something off the shelves.
Well, I do know that one of the games that I definitely want to get to the table when we get together is Oaxaca.
Oh, well.
Because I still haven't played Oaxaca.
Right.
I ordered it, but I haven't played it yet.
Right. I totally forgot. That fell through when we were going to have you guys over. So, yes.
Yeah.
That is definitely on the docket then.
Yes, definitely. All right. Well, my first game that I'm going to talk about is Tzolk'in.
Ooh.
It's called Tzolk'in, the Mayan Calendar. It was designed by Simone Luciani and Danielle Tassini. I've seen this game on the game shelf, but I've never seen it on the table. And Annette Villa, hi Annette, talked about this one in episode number 45 when we talked about ancient era games. And my friend Richard Bright, hi Richard, he brought it to our library game day this last Saturday.
Nice.
And so we sat down to play it. And what a crunchy game. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed it. So Tzolk'in is a worker placement game with a unique mechanism on the game board. There's a set of 5 interlocking gears on the board that represent the Mayan calendar. You start with 3 workers, and you can buy more as the game progresses, but you have to be able to feed all your workers 2 corn each at 4 specific points on the calendar. During your turn, you can either place workers or pull them off the board to reap what they've done. When you place workers on the dials, you may have to pay corn, which is the currency in this game, depending on where you put them. At the end of each round, the big dial is turned 1 gear movement, and it moves the other 5 smaller gears. And that in turn moves all the workers that are placed on them. So they move from 1 gear spot to another. Think of the little teeth, gear teeth. And so there's also an option for each player to move the calendar forward twice, once per game. This happened a couple of times in the game we were playing, and it really messed me up in one case, and it really improved my situation in another, and it wasn't me moving them. So It can work either way. So you gain victory points by timing when to pull your workers off the dials. The further your workers are around on one specific dial, the more benefits you reap. However, you cannot pass on a turn. So you have to either place workers or take them off. You can't say, I'm not going to do anything this turn. I'm just going to leave everybody where they are. You have to do one or the other of those actions. That's why it's advantageous to buy more workers. And I unfortunately didn't do that until late in the game. But then at these 4 specific points on the big dial, you have to feed your workers at least at 2 corn each. If you can't feed all of your workers 2 corn each, then you lose 3 victory points per unfed worker. Oof. So you actually go backwards on the victory point track. The game ends when you get back to the starting point on the big dial. You tally up the final victory points, and the player with the most points wins. There are so many different things you can do in this game. Mm-hmm. There are 6 dials on the board, 1 big and then 5 smaller ones. You place your workers on the 5 smaller dials and then turn the bigger dial 1 gear position to mark the passage of time at the end of each round. 1 dial is mostly concerned with getting you food. Another is for building monuments and buildings. One has to do with advancing on the technology track or the temple track. Another is for acquiring resources. One is for redeeming crystal skulls and getting points and moving up on the temple track. So the temple track gets you victory points and resources. The technology track gets you more food when you collect food, more resources when you collect resources, or makes it easier to build monuments and buildings. This is a very busy board, but the artwork is so lovely.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about artwork in board games in just a little bit, but one of the players in our game told me to Google painted Zulkan gears.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my word. What people do to these things.
It's amazing. I mean, I've heard of upgrading your games before, and painting miniatures, but painting your board, these people do amazing work.
Yeah, the way the gears are created, they're plastic and they've got what look like carvings on them. Well, people have gone and painted all these little tiny carvings, beautiful colors, and each dial is different. Yep. And oh my gosh, they have just gone to town. I'll put some pictures in the show notes. It's very impressive. So I rate this game a 5. And you know I don't rate games 5 very often. I will rate a lot of 4s, but this one, it's challenging, but it's not hard to learn. It's one of those games that's going to be quick to learn, but it's going to take a long time to master it. I very much want to add this one to my collection and spend some more time playing it and exploring all of the options, figuring out a strategy that might actually help me win. Actually, I think I came in second, so I didn't do too badly. And I think the only person there who had played it was Richard. I don't feel like I did badly, but one play of this game didn't even scratch the surface on delving into it. It's an amazing looking game.
Yeah, I don't remember who we borrowed it from, but closer to when it came out, we were interested in it, but concerned about the gears because of Will's vision. Mm-hmm. And so, God, I wish I could remember who let us borrow it. Well, anyway, it was several years ago now. So we got a chance to borrow it, play it. Yeah, Will could not make heads or tails of those gears. He couldn't track anything.
Yeah, no, I didn't think he would be able to.
And for me, even I had trouble, just like you said, it's crunchy. There's so much going on. It's really awesome if you can balance all of it. But I don't think I'm as good at predicting rondelles because it's kind of like a rondelle in that way.
It's actually about 6 rondelles.
Yeah, so that makes it even harder because there's games that have 1 rondelle and I'm like, where's it? Which way is that going to go? Anywho, the only comment Will really had other than I can't play it was, too bad they didn't do steampunk. Because with all those gears, it's because he can't really get any theme out of, anything. Because he can't see anything. He could feel the different gears. And so he's like, I wonder why they didn't do steampunk theming. I'm like, I have no idea, but that would have worked too. So,
well, remember right around, I think, 2012, the Mayan calendar was a big deal because that was when it was set to expire.
That's right. I remember that now.
That's probably, and I think this one came out in about 2012.
I think so.
Yes, 2012. That's absolutely apropos for when that game should have come out.
Yeah, so I guess that makes sense that they chose that theme. It's just maybe if it had been made any other time, It would have been some steampunk thing of making airships or something.
Well, maybe you and Will could put together a Zulkan-style game in steampunk theme.
there you go.
There you go. Come on. Creative juices flowing, Sarah. Come on.
But I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did. Mark and I both enjoyed it very much. So thank you, Richard, for sharing that with us. Yeah, I definitely want to add that one to my collection. There's a lot of games that I talk about that, when we put together the scale, the rating scale, and we said a 5 is buy this now, I knew that it would take a lot for me to say, yes, you need to go buy this game. If you like crunchy games, this is, and you don't have vision issues, and you don't have AP.
Yes.
If you're not an AP prone player, then this is a great game to go get.
It literally has a lot of moving parts.
It literally does, yes. And I am not going to be one of those people to go paint my dials because I don't have that kind of talent. Yeah. I don't paint minis either. I'll ask other people to paint them for me. So if anybody out there wants to paint my Zulkan board when I get Zulkan, I will happily give you money to go do that and wait on tenterhooks to see what you do with it. But no, I am not someone that does that. So, but I am very much impressed by those who do. So, but yes, I very much enjoyed Zulkan.
Good. Well, we're talking about some heavy games today because
my next one is really light.
Okay, good. Because my next one is Seventh Continent, which literally is very heavy because it's a lot of cards.
It is. It's literally heavy, yes. I recently played it too.
Cool. Can't wait to hear your thoughts about it.
Sure. Go ahead.
All right. So Seventh Continent is designed by Ludovic Rodi and Bruno Salter and art by Ludovic Rodi, published by Serious Pulp this year, 2017. It plays 1 to 4 players in many, many, many hours. Lots of hours. Many hours. So, Seventh Continent, huh?
It is a type of legacy style game, isn't it?
Well, not exactly, because you don't actually modify anything permanently. So that's the one thing. Most of the legacy games what is called a legacy game is, as you play the game, you change things permanently so that it's changed permanently in the future. This all has a reset to 0 as you play through one. I can't really call it it's somewhere between a scenario and a campaign because usually in the way we think of campaigns, it's a series of a series of like modules or missions. I'll just call them missions. This is more than just one mission, but it's one mission that's really, really, really long. So it's a mission that takes the length of a campaign.
Right. So it's more of a campaign style game.
Yes, it's a campaign style game.
Okay.
Seventh Continent is a cooperative exploration survival board game with game mechanics that are inspired by choose your own adventure books and utilizes a save feature inspired by video games. That's a mouthful, and it's very, very ambitious. Some people were very skeptical that this was going to make for a good board game, and I have heard many comments after playing it that they'd rather it was a video game. But I have to say, it succeeds very well at what it aims to be. Mm-mm. But kind of like Vast, I'm just not sure how I feel about it yet. So in Seventh Continent, your goal is to lift the curse that was placed on you during your first expedition to the continent. So you've been to the continent before, you got back home, and suddenly you're not feeling well, and other people from your first expedition are starting to disappear. So you have to go back. You must explore the land, following the clue you have to lift your curse and survive the perils of the continent. So this is what trips people up. The continent is fixed. It is always fixed. If card 175 says when you go north to go to 284, it will always go to 284. But the events you encounter are random. So there's a high level of replayability there. Also, there could be several copies of 284. And so it's the same piece of land, but different things may be on it. So first you encounter a random event. Once you clear that, then you actually get to see the terrain. And then, of course, the other thing is each curse starts you in a different place. So as much as the land is fixed, you're very unlikely to remember how the continent is laid out from game to game, especially since one playthrough can take so many hours. And you're not supposed to do it all in one sitting. The game relies on you stopping and saving to reset certain areas. So, for example, if you find hunting grounds, you can exhaust it so that it's near impossible to find food. But if you save and put the game away, when you come back, the hunting ground is reset. So, what you do on your turn is pretty simple, but your choices are really hard. You basically just choose to do an action. You can move, explore, build, or most often you're just responding to random events that test your ability to survive. And when you do an action, it will tell you how many cards you reveal from the action deck and how many successes you need. You can modify this with skills and items and other things. The more cards you draw, the more chances you have to succeed, but the quicker you run through the action deck. And that's the more likely you are to die because the action deck is the timer in your life. Should you run out, you have to draw cards from the discard pile, and you will die if you draw a curse card from the discard pile. Now, there are ways to get cards back into the action deck from the discard pile, so you have to manage your time between doing that to survive and actually making progress towards lifting the curse. There's a lot going on in the game. I'm not going to go into any more detail. I am happy we got it. I'm looking forward to playing it again, just not playing one game in 2 sittings. We got a bit overly excited for the game, started playing on a Friday night, and then played all day Saturday.
Ah, okay.
Took us 10 hours before we died.
Oh my goodness.
That burned us out a bit, so we're going to let it sit for a little bit before we try it again. However, here's where I want to help everybody who hasn't played the game, and I'm hoping this isn't spoiling it for you. We made a critical mistake that I've heard a lot of people have made. If you choose the curse that they recommend for your first playthrough, and I can't remember what it is, but the back of the clue card is a map. It really is a map. It really shows you where to go.
Huh.
Unfortunately, we thought it was flavor and just didn't pay attention to it. Went completely the wrong way. Took till nearly the end before we realized our mistake, tried to correct it, but died right before we think we would have made it to the end. So, the rules tell you to read the clue cards very carefully, but too many other games have conditioned us that art is flavor, it's fluff, not substance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, if you play with this and you see a map on the back of your clue card, follow the map. Nothing in this, you should not take anything for granted in this game. I mean, I thought it was really cool. Like, we got an item, I don't remember what it was, but it said that if on the terrain map, that piece that you're on has red berries on a bush, you get a benefit. So it actually takes the art on the cards into account. I mean, it's really, trying to find the right word, engaging, and it pulls you in. I do know some people say it got really repetitive, and I can understand that because what you do is the same. It's the outcomes that are different, but you're doing an action, you're drawing cards to see if you succeed. That mechanism is pretty basic, but you kind of need it for the variety of what this is. This is an exploration game. So for right now, I still give it a 4 out of 5. I mean, it's a solid, it's an exploration game. It does this very, very well. The save feature is awesome. We're backing the current Kickstarter for the expansion and the corrected cards for the first edition. I'm really looking forward to one of the neat things in the new Kickstarter is a journal. So it's actually a little book that looks like a journal, and you open up and it's sleeves or like slots for cards. So when you save, there are certain cards you keep. So now with this journal, you slide in the cards that you need for your save point, fold this little journal back up, put it in the box. And when you go to play it again, you pull out this journal and it tells you how to reset everything up.
That's brilliant.
I love it. It's fantastic. And then the expansion adds a hot air balloon, so you're going to be flying above the continent, and then like a mine cart, so you are exploring below the continent. So, we have only played a little bit. We haven't played with any of the so-called expansion stuff that was in the first Kickstarter. There is worms or some big worm-like creatures and weather, and I can't even remember all the other extra stuff that's from the first. So we've got a lot to play before this expansion comes out. I'm just more looking forward to the corrected cards. I think I printed out a sheet that says there's like only 4 critical things that send you to the wrong card. They got a couple of numbers wrong in the first edition, but that'll get fixed. So for those listening, the Kickstarter ends October 19th. So if it's before October 19th, 2017, check it out. Otherwise, if it's after that, just keep a little eye out. I have no idea if this one's going to retail. I kind of doubt it. They didn't have any extra left over from the first campaign, which is why they went to Kickstarter so fast, because we just got this at the end of August. Yeah, at the end of August, played it in September, Kickstarter in October, so it's not a whole lot of time.
Yeah, no, I heard that it was only for Kickstarter, that it wasn't going to retail.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. This kind of massive thing, it's expensive as it is. It's so giant. I can't see it doing well retail, but it's also a very niche type of game. It's very different. There's going to be a lot of people who say they would have preferred to play a video game. But if you like that choose your own adventure, you don't mind a little repetition in exactly what you're doing, but what you like is that exploration and surprise and, I don't know, that kind of experience. It's solid.
Yeah, Mark and I played this game with our friends Dwayne and Yuriko. Hi, Dwayne and Yuriko. And we had a good time. We only played it for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
We didn't do, all-day marathon like you and Will did.
Probably a good idea.
Probably. But we were very impressed with it. We did use the worms.
Oh, okay.
We ran into the worms on the first card we went on to.
Oh, my God.
This isn't your daddy's gawk, This is monster worm. This is like worms from Dune kind of worm.
Yeah, that's what I see. When I see them, I always think of Dune.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what happened was we ran into a baby. So they have these little baby worms. And we went, let's kill it. And we killed it. And all of a sudden we heard this rumbling sound. And up from the depths comes Mama.
Oh.
And, it took us 3 tries to get Mama to go away.
Oh, my goodness.
We didn't kill Mama. Mama moved to a different card.
Oh.
Now, 3 tries doesn't sound like very much, but
that's
we
a lot
went
of
through
cards.
most of the action deck. And like she said, the action deck is your timer. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that we were like, oh no, we're doomed. We're doomed.
Yeah, not sure I would have tried that on the first go.
And actually we did end up dying within like half an hour of starting the game. And it was largely due to Mama and her babies. But then we started over again.
Okay.
And we didn't run into the worms the second time around, but we had a good time. We saved it. And so we're looking forward to playing it again. And Dwayne has backed the expansion.
Oh, good.
So we're looking forward to when that comes in too. So.
Yeah, that's the other thing I really like about this. It plays well 2 players, and that's really great for us because, don't get me wrong, I'd love to play it with more people, but like so many times we've tried to play campaign style games with other people, it always falls apart because we can't get together soon enough. Our Galaxy Defenders game has fallen apart. Our Star Wars Imperial Assault has fallen apart. We can't even get our role-playing group together for playing Numenera. So what's really great for me and Will is once we're past we've burned ourselves out, we can just play it anytime we want because it's just going to be the 2 of us. And that's where we focused on this for us, is it works really well 2 players. And we most of the time we're moving along together. I know you can separate, and we do a little bit, but not very far. It's still one of those games that's better to be together for the most part. So, But yeah, I definitely like it for a 2-player experience. In case anyone's wondering how it plays, it's very solid playing it 2-player.
Yeah, we're having the same kind of issue with Pandemic Legacy.
Yeah.
With, Mark and I sat down to play Arcadia Quest, and we got like 2/3 of the way through it, and we haven't put it back and we saved it, and we haven't put it back on the table.
Yeah.
So we need to finish it because we haven't gone up against the big bad. We've run into this problem with Mechs versus Minions. Mm-hmm. We were playing with my niece Nicole and her boyfriend Kyrie. Well, guess what? They went back to school.
Yeah.
I live in Sacramento. They go to school in Humboldt, which is up near the Oregon border.
Yeah.
So we're not getting together anytime soon to play Mechs versus Minions. Time Stories. We're 2 expansions. We love Time Stories, but we're 2 expansions behind just because it just takes so much time and effort to get everybody back together to push on. We have great fun when we sit down and do it.
Oh, yeah, totally.
All those games are totally fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's just getting people together. I know my Firefly game, it's been almost a year.
Oof.
We haven't played since January.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's just been a busy year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of my players kind of niggled my elbow. We have a Facebook group for that game. And he's like, okay, you've moved. Are we playing yet? And by the way, hi, Tree. So I said, yes, I will work on it. But we do need to find a different place to play because our new place is too small for all of the people in my game. I have 8 or 9 players in my game, so it's huge.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So yeah, we need to figure out a place to play. So I understand what you're talking about. So it's good that you guys sat down and played this, just the two of you, because you know you'll come back to it. At least you think you know you'll come back to it. Me and Mark and Arcadia Quest.
Right, we have a better opportunity to get it back to the table than other ones.
Right. So yes, I would definitely give this game a 4 as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right. My next game is called Red November and is a tongue-in-cheek poke at the movie Red October.
Oh.
And it was designed by Bruno Feduti and Jeff Gontier. My friend Richard, hi again, Richard, also brought this one to game day. It actually counts for our 52-game challenge because one of the criteria is a game with a month in the title.
Hey, that's
so
good.
He reached out to me and said, hey, we both need this game, so why don't I bring it and we'll play it at Library Game Day? And I said, perfect.
There you go.
So in Red November, you are all playing crew on a gnomish, leaky, fire-prone, nuclear-powered submarine with a third-rate engine and running low on oxygen.
I love it already.
If that's not a scary thought, I don't know what is. In this cooperative game, you're trying to survive the next 60 minutes.
Wow.
By putting out fires, plugging leaks, fixing the reactor and the engines, and trying to keep everyone breathing. The two things that give you the ability and courage to put out fires are 1, a fire extinguisher, and 2, getting drunk on GOG.
Yeah, you can do anything when you're drunk.
Or grog. Yeah. That's right. If you're too sober, you can't go into the same room as a fire without a fire extinguisher.
Oh.
If you have grog, you don't need the fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
Is anybody out there doing a face palm yet? Because I am. On your turn, you can move as far as you like, but each action takes at least a minute, and time is a factor in this game. You have pieces moving along this time track around the edge of the board, and you have to decide how much time you're going to spend doing your actions this turn. The other thing about the time is that movement is decided by a time track mechanic, which means that whoever is last on the time track gets to go first at the start of the round. This mechanic is also used in Tokaido and Rocky Road a la mode. If you spend too much of your time, it might be a round or two before you actually get to take another turn. There are also stars on the time track, and for each of these stars that you pass, you have to draw an event card that could either cause another disaster to happen, like the oxygen levels dropping, or the submarine springing a leak, or the engine conking out. This is a fun and quick game that had us laughing and shouting the entire time. Each success would send up a cheer, yay! And each failure would send up yelps of fear and disappointment. By the way, if you end your turn in a room that's fully flooded or on fire and you're drunk, you have to roll to see if you pass out and die or survive.
Oh, man.
Oh, and a good thing, though, if one room is on fire and one room is completely flooded and you open the door between them, the water level will equal out and put out the fire for you.
That's good.
Yeah. So, the leaky boat's not entirely a bad thing, especially when part of it's on fire.
Yeah, there you go.
By the time we're done playing this game, I knew I wanted a copy of this for my own. This game is absolutely a 5 on our scale. I can't wait to get one of my own and introduce it to some of my friends and family. So big shout out to Richards. Thank you for a very fun library game day. It was really a lot of fun.
Cool. I have never heard of that game before. So, but that sounds
it actually came out in like 2008, I think.
Yeah. Well,
it's a lot of fun. It's so silly.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we didn't really get into the modern hobby till 2012, and we only went back and got so many games that were published before. So, yeah, that was a bit before my time in the hobby. So,
Yeah, I think this is a game that I could probably introduce to my non-gamer family and we'd have a lot of fun with it.
yeah, it sounds like it, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a fun one too now. Legendary Marvel. It's one of our, I don't know if you want to call it a guilty pleasure. There's a lot of people that don't like it, but I always have a blast playing it. It's not the best mechanically designed game, but we also like the DC deck builder because it's not about the mechanics when you play these games. It's about being a superhero or playing superheroes or playing it with superheroes. I don't know. It's cool. So what I want to talk about today, though, is 2 expansions we finally got to the table, Deadpool and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ah, okay.
Both were really good. So the game in general is designed by Devin Lowe, published by Upper Deck. Deadpool was published in 2016 and Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014. The Legendary system plays 1 to 5 players in about 60 to 90 minutes. So for those who don't know, it's a semi-cooperative deck-building game where you play teams of heroes against a mastermind and their henchmen, and they're trying to complete a scheme. Like all deck builders, everyone starts off with a basic deck. In this case, you get some cards that give you stars, which you use to recruit more heroes, while other cards give you these claw marks, which are attack points that you use to defeat henchmen, villains, and the mastermind. So to start playing Legendary, you pick a mastermind and a scheme, and this dictates pretty much almost everything else that you're going to use, like which villains and henchmen. You might have some choices, but it dictates a lot of what you're trying to do for setup. Your goal is to defeat the mastermind 4 times before they carry out their scheme, or most of the time that's how it's done. Some of the schemes twist things a little, so you have different goals than just defeating the mastermind 4 times, but in general, that's how it works. Villains and henchmen will enter the city and progress through a row, and you want to defeat them before they leave or bad things happen. Now, we play Legendary completely cooperative. Unfortunately, the design goals are that one player will earn more points from all the villains they defeat and thus be the winner. We typically play that player or whoever has, the most points at the end is the one featured on the front of that month's cover, kind of.
I love that you guys do that.
Yeah, comic booky. Because we love it being cooperative. It does make it a little easier, but we also just play this game for fun.
Sure.
Now, for these 2 expansions, I really like most of the mechanisms that they've added. First of all, Deadpool is just freaking hilarious. I've seen some rule books try to be funny, but this succeeds big time. Basically, it looks like a straightforward rule book, and then there's just scrawls all over it. Deadpool is supposedly written all over it, rewriting certain sections, doing little funny faces. It's fantastic. They did the same thing on the cards. I mean, when you play this, just read all the flavor text. I mean, this is a big treat for Deadpool fans. I've seen a couple of comments that if you're not a Deadpool fan, you'll think it's stupid. That's probably true, but Deadpool is kind of stupid, so it works out. As for the mechanisms, I enjoyed that it introduced the half stars and claws. So now if you have like 1.5 stars, it gets rounded down, so the half doesn't matter. But if you get 2 cards that have the half stars, then it adds together. So it was challenging to get enough cards together with the halves to make them count. It was a neat little twist. I didn't really care much for the revenge mechanism because it amped up the difficulty. Every time you face off against a villain, and it has the phrase revenge for, and then you insert a group name. You count up how many of that group you've already killed, and this new villain is that much tougher. So
wow.
Yeah, so if you've defeated 3 of that group, he's +3. And if it's a tough villain to start with, which might be like a 6, you now need 9 attack to defeat him, which is almost some of the masterminds have 9 to defeat him. So there was a certain point where that amped up so fast that it was really hard to win. But we did actually win that game. So it worked out, but it took a lot because I ended up fighting a lot of one type and Will ended up fighting a lot of another type. So when certain ones came out, we'd have to switch and really focus on fighting the other one that we hadn't fought. Now for Guardians of the Galaxy, a solid group of heroes. I love the different abilities. I enjoyed playing with the characters because I've seen both the movies now, which is my only real introduction to who Guardians of the Galaxy is. Mm-hmm. But the mechanisms were really nice in what the heroes could do. They added the Infinity Gauntlets and artifacts, which are really cool because they're actually permanent cards that come out, kind of like constructs in Ascension. So they stay out in front of you. They also added this weird shard mechanism that added up that also amped up the difficulty. Different characters, we could earn shards, which was kind of nice because that helped us. But the enemies could gain shards, and shards were like ways you could deal more damage. So when an enemy got like 5 shards, that was not good because that was, not fun. But we lost one of the games just because one of the schemes was just impossible to defeat. And so this is one of the flaws that Legendary Marvel generally has, is that there are some mastermind scheme combos that are just impossible. They must not have play tested them enough or whatever, but there's no way to win. And that kind of happened with one of the mastermind and scheme combos from just the expansion, which is disappointing because you'd think they'd at least test the expansion material against itself.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, we still really enjoy the game. It's just a lot of fun. We like the bit of strategy with how you craft your deck to maximize the synergies between the cards. And these new expansions really add, a lot to it. I mean, I still wish it was a true co-op, but it's still fun. And I can see us playing with these expansions again, trying new combinations. I give the Deadpool expansion about a 3.5 out of 5. Well, I give the Guardians of the Galaxy a 4 out of 5. Overall, just the Guardians of the Galaxy just worked a bit better with less rough edges. But both of them were really good. Yeah, and we'll continue to play the game. We still have lots of expansions. I'm sure we'll get. It just works for a great superhero cooperative deck builder.
Okay, good. Deadpool strikes me as a property that has rough edges anyway.
That's a good point.
So probably the fact that the game has rough edges is probably by design. So
yeah, you got a point there.
Yeah. I haven't seen the movie, and I don't know anything about the comics. I just know that he's kind of a crude version of a hero.
Right.
So, or maybe an anti-hero would be a good way to describe him.
It's interesting, and not to get too much into the movie, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to handle the movie because I typically can't handle a lot of profanity. It's hard to explain, but the way he does it, it's not it's hard to explain why it's not offensive, because it is offensive, but he's not saying these things to be mean like you would think most profanity would be used to be mean against other people. It's odd. I guess you just kind of have to watch the movie because I'm a person who doesn't like a lot of profanity, and I absolutely laughed so hard. That was one of the movies I've laughed the hardest at. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Deadpool hurt my sides. I was laughing so hard at them. So if you're a little squeamish or you don't like a lot of profanity, it works with Deadpool. I don't think I could handle it in a lot of other things. There's stuff that Will's watched that I'm like, I'm going to go read a book. I can't handle it. But with the way his character is, it works. So
okay. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, if you ever get a chance to watch it. I'm not saying it's a must-see movie. It's good for what it is, but yeah.
We actually own the movie because we're trying to collect the Marvel movies.
Good.
But I just haven't watched it. So,
okay,
anyway.
Well, at least you have it available.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for my last game today, I want to report on our recent game of Mega Civilization at my friend Dave Mitchell's house. Hi, Dave. Mega Civilization is a civilization building game designed by Flo DeHaan, John Rodriguez, and Francis Treshman, and takes place on the Mediterranean and the Middle East. You're basically starting at the Stone Age and building your advances from there. It will play up to 18 players. Oof. Yes, that's 18. 18. We only had 13 players for this game, so a little bit smaller. Dave would very much like to get an 18-player game of Mega Civ going, but I'm not sure.
I don't think you have the days it would take to finish that.
Let me continue. This game is... Okay, I'm going to say this, but understand it's got a little bit of a qualifier to it. This is not an overly complex game. It does take a long time to teach, though, if that makes any sense at all. On this particular game day, the rules explanation started at 9:30 a.m. If you wanted to hear the rules because you didn't remember them from last time or you've never played, show up at 9:30 and we'll go over the rules. And gameplay commenced at about 10:50.
Wow. That's a
So
long time.
it took an hour and 20 minutes to go over all the rules. However, this is a game that has a game master. So someone who moves the game along, keeps things going. If you aren't clear about a rule, you ask and he will explain it to you. In our case, it was a he. We called this game. We didn't finish it again.
Mm-hmm.
We called it at 12:15 a.m. on Sunday morning.
Ooh, dang.
Because we were just all too tired to do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And we were so close.
Aww.
For us to finish probably would have taken another hour or two.
Oof.
So we were close. This is the closest we've ever gotten to finishing this game. And this was my third time playing it. But we were all exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
The game board is easily 5 to 6 feet long and 3 feet wide. Dave has a special table just for this game. He's taken one of those long plastic folding tables and permanently affixed a piece of plywood to it that's longer and wider than the table. And then he's reinforced the ends so that people can actually lean on the table a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Then across the room, so he has a big living room that he has cleared out for this game day. I mean, the couches are like pushed against the walls and there's nothing in the middle of the floor. Or actually, there were some card tables in the middle of the floor where we could put our player boards. But across the room were 2 other tables that held all of the civilization advances. And each civilization advance had its own deck of 18 cards. Because theoretically, everybody could earn all of these civilization advances. And then on the sides of the room were 2 TV trays for these little tiny cards that are trade goods and catastrophes. And on each side of the room, there are 9 decks of cards. So there's 18 separate trade good and catastrophe decks. All total, there's 9 for East and 9 for West. And so the trade goods and catastrophes get shuffled together, but they're in 9 separate decks. So once everyone has chosen his or her civilization and play starts, you start with 1 place, like 1 little village, and you build it into a city, and then you expand, and you build more cities, and you expand. And for the first little while, nobody's running into each other because really big map. Once civilizations start to bump into each other, then the game slows down a bit as deals are struck and wars are waged. Then the game master checks to see how each civilization is progressing. In order to move along the scoring track, you have to achieve and maintain a certain number of cities and a certain number of civilization advances. The advances are all bought by turning in sets of trade goods. Catastrophes are also a part of the game and are distributed with the trade goods at random, and most of them can be traded to other players during the trading phase. So for example, if I get a famine catastrophe when I collect my trade goods, I can trade it to Mark, hi honey, along with a pair of hides that he's looking for. He can in turn turn around and trade it off to Frank, hi Frank, along with some flax that Frank is looking for. Once the trading phase is done, whoever ended up with the catastrophe has to go to the board and deal with whatever catastrophes he or she has in their hand. Catastrophes include famines, volcanoes, earthquakes, plagues, pirates, barbarians, tidal waves, heresy, and treachery. So each one is dealt with in a specific order, and you have to remember where you got it from. So if you say, oh, I was dealt this when we got our trade goods, or some of them do say untradeable. So you can't, if you get it when you get your trade goods, you can't actually trade it away. Or if someone traded it to you, you have to try and remember, okay, who gave me this? Okay, because that person may be a beneficiary of the disaster, or they might actually suffer from the disaster as well. It just depends on how things work out. Gameplay started at almost 11. It was actually a very social, relaxing day with a lot of standing and walking around, munching on snacks, chatting, wheeling and dealing. In the evening, Dave's wife, hi Karen, brought in Mexican food for us.
Ooh.
It was very yummy. Thank you, Karen. It was very good. At about 11:30, we decided to finish the round and call the game. It was going to take at least another hour or two to finish the game, and we just didn't have the energy to keep going. When all the points were tallied, my friend Scott was the winner. Congrats, Scott. A newcomer to the game named Carla came in second.
Nice.
So congratulations and hi, Carla. She did very well, and most of the game, it was a race between her and Scott. And actually, this was Scott's first game, too.
Nice.
So they did really, really well. I was very pleased that I was able to improve my score this time. I was very much solidly in the middle of the pack. So, I'm happy that I wasn't tailing Charlie.
Yeah.
I give this game a 4.5 on our scale. Mm-hmm. I don't personally want to own this game. It's a very expensive game. I think it's somewhere between $200 and $300 to buy this game. Comes in a ginormous wooden box. The components are great. The cards are great. The board is great. The artwork is wonderful. Nothing against. It's a huge game.
Yeah.
And it's a huge effort to even get it to the table.
Yeah.
So, but I will go play this anytime I'm invited to go play.
Nice.
You just, if you're invited to go play Megasiv, go play. Just understand it's going to be an all-day commitment. And I even brought some filler games to, play on the side while we were waiting for our turn. And Dave absolutely forbade it. He goes, nope, that turns into herding cats, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I can see that. So we went,
all right, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Fun game, had a great time. Everybody was wonderful. And actually, this was a pretty peaceful game. There wasn't a lot of people trying to conquer other people. We started out the day going, okay, I'm going to take these territories here. And I'll go out as far as here, and then that'll be our border, okay? And everybody go, okay, yeah, that sounds good. And a couple of times where people went, nah, I'm going to push in here instead. There was one time where I looked down, I'm like, that space is empty, and I don't remember who used to be there. There was a disaster that had wiped out that particular space on the board. And I went, no, all right, I'm going to move in there. And then Mark comes back and he goes, hey, who's playing this one? That was my spot. And I went, oops, sorry, honey. It's mine now. I said, but I won't move into any of your other spots, okay? He goes, all right. So we ended up peacefully. But yeah, great game. If you ever get invited to go play because somebody else owns this game, go play. It's definitely a worthwhile experience for sure.
That sounds massive. That's all I can say. I don't think I have the stamina.
It's huge. Oh, the next day, I got to tell you. Okay, Thursday, I decided to walk my dogs to the park, which is like 20 minutes away. Mm-hmm. And understand that when I walk my dogs to the park, one is 11 and one is 3. Yeah. So one is an anchor and one is a tug. Mm-hmm. And so I'm constantly being pulled back and forth. And by the time we got home, both Shasta and I were absolutely sore. And so then Friday, we had friends over to play games. And we ordered pizza. We all chipped in. We ordered pizza. And I go out to sign for the pizza. And as I'm signing, I notice Shasta sniffing the pizza guy's pants. And she's gone out the front door a little bit. And she's just standing there sniffing the pizza guy. And I was like, oh, okay, well, here, let me finish that. So because Shasta has a tendency to bolt if she gets out the front door.
Right.
And Shasta bolted. And I was like, oh, no. And I went running after her. And just as I got to her and she stopped, I tripped.
Oh, no.
And literally fell flat on my face, skinned the back of my hand, bruised my other hand really bad, bruised my knee really bad. I was so sore the next day. I couldn't hardly move. So I got up, and that was Megasiv Day. So I got up, I took some leave, I felt much better. We went and played Megasiv, where I'm standing around all day.
Oof.
I mean, there were places to sit, but you're sitting for a few minutes, and then you're getting up and you're going dealing with stuff with the board, and then you're coming back and sitting down again.
Right.
And then you're doing this for 13, 14 hours.
Oof.
Sunday, I could not move.
I'm not surprised.
I could not move. I told my dogs, sorry, we're not going to the park today.
Yeah. I'm done.
Yeah. So, but like I said, very worthwhile experience. Go experience Megasiv if you have an opportunity.
Just try not to injure yourself before you go.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. All right. And that's what we've been playing. You've heard us referring to and rating games by a rating scale. Here's how we're using this scale. 1. Give me back the time I spent playing it. 2. Has great potential as kindling. 3. Decent with some bugs. 4. a good, solid game. And 5, buy this now. Today for the interview, I am joined by Tara Clapper from the Geek Initiative, which was founded to demonstrate that women occupy a significant space in geek culture. She's here today to tell us about Chariot LARP. Tara, welcome to our turn.
Kathy, thank you so much for having me on your show today.
Well, I am so happy to have you. Tell me about the Geek Initiative. Until we started chatting, I hadn't heard of this.
The Geek Initiative is an online community for women in geek culture, and it started out as a blog, and it started out as just me. And the reason I founded it was because I was in a comic book store, and I absolutely love all versions of the Marvel character Thor. And I was looking at some Thor comics, and I was 30 years old, so this happened 6 years ago now. And the comic book store owner said, hey, if you're interested in Thor comics, you should maybe ask your big brother. And I was like, really? Are you kidding me? And I have a lot of knowledge about this character, right? So that experience really troubled me, and I felt really uncomfortable in the store. And so I went ahead and made a place online where women could get together and talk about stuff like that. So it started out as a blog. We have, I think, over 1,000 pieces of content on the blog now, but we have expanded to produce LARPs, which are live-action role-playing games, and we do a little bit of publishing, and we even get into content marketing and content agency stuff now as well, because the Geek Initiative is now my full-time job.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And how long did it take you to get to that point?
The full 6 years that it was operational. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah, most of the times I was working at least one full-time job in addition to managing the Geek Initiative. And now we've had a couple crowdfunding efforts, but now it's pretty much everything I do. So the Patreon actually pays for the website hosting fees, which is great. We do get occasional advertisers, but I've been able to pass the editorial section off to an editor-in-chief so that I can actually focus on the development of the LARPs to bring in some more money and to actually sustain myself and to pay my bills.
Well, excellent, excellent. So tell me about your LARP.
My LARP is called Chariot LARP, and it is an immersive sci-fi digital live-action game. So the players, as well as their characters, are logging in on a video conference. And it's sci-fi, so it takes place at the end of this century. And the whole concept is that they've been selected, their characters have been selected to go on a generational spaceship called Chariot to settle Proxima B. And the place that they settle it, because we try to avoid language that sounds, too colonial, is going to be called Proxima Endeavor. That's what they're going to call it when they get there. But our characters are going to live and die on the ship, and they are meeting for the first time just a sampling of the 233 people that they are going to live and die with. And the game is also streamed. So I actually stream the whole game live on Twitch. And we
wow.
Yeah, I think that's the component I'm doing that's a little bit different than what other digital LARPs have done. And then there's also...
So not only can people play in the game, but other people can watch people playing in the game?
Exactly, and it's free to watch and observe it. And you can go in and watch all of the recorded videos. So, yeah, it's really exciting. That's a kind of a new component, because people have done that a lot with tabletop role-playing games. And people role-play characters and personas while they are playing video games, whether they're RPGs or they're... Like, there's one guy that's like, he's like a pirate persona. There's another guy that's like a wizard. But I think this is the first LARP that has done a campaign that is digital, that is a live-action role-playing game, and that is streamed. So I'm doing something a little bit new here.
Wow, that is very different. I haven't heard of LARPs like that before. If someone wants to participate, what's involved with that?
So it's a really simple process to begin. You can sign up for one of the runs, and I have different runs that conform to different schedules. So, like, I have one that runs on Saturdays that are longer periods of time. That run for 4 hours, more like a D&D campaign usually would. I have other ones that run for 2 hours at a time on weekday nights. And then we have different runs to match people's needs. So most of the games are streamed, but we do have one closed run. And then we also have one run that is just for women. And we have one run that is only for people of color. And I have a really talented GM captaining that. So I do also get to hire GMs. So to sign up for the game, it is $50 and plus a $2 processing fee. And it covers 12 hours of gameplay, workshopping, and all of the materials you need to get started.
So what do you mean by workshopping? Is that like character development?
Absolutely. So it starts with character creation, which is a one-on-one process with your captain, which is the term we use to describe the GM. In most of the runs, that's me. And we actually stream that. So it's a very transparent process, just as the game development itself has been. And then from there, there is a safety broadcast where the players tune in to learn a little bit about emotional safety and how to communicate with each other. And then I kind of walk them through the tools that we use, because there are some free digital tools that we use for the game. And then play begins. So it's really as simple as signing up, and I have a great team working with me to ensure smooth communication between the players and the people running the games, because there are a few of us. And like I said, we have different runs scheduled right now.
Excellent. And how long is this game running for? Is it just going to be an ongoing thing?
Right now, we have several runs, and we're going through. We actually booked a private run. Somebody actually bought out an entire session, and that's last one I have scheduled. Yeah, that's the last one I have scheduled, and that one goes through the end of November. I would love to add more. I have great big plans to expand this. I have some really good surprises that would make really great Kickstarter rewards, really good stretch goals. But right now I'm making sure the interest is really there. So I'm trying to fill up the runs that I have. I'm really close to doing that. I'm almost there. But I would love to be able to build this into the full-scale business model that it is. And I've learned a lot about developing this kind of thing, about running LARP as a business. I've learned a lot, even in just like the past 3 weeks. And what I want to do is use this business model so that I can expand and grow and hire GMs and actually have GMs coming on board as captains. They go through their own vetting process and training process. And basically what I want to do is tell people, you know what, if you can get 5 people to sign up, I will pay you $100 to run this game. And that's kind of the model I have in play right now. So it's great because it's a wonderful thing where I get to train them. It's profitable for them. It's profitable for me. And I get to keep growing this as I can. So I do hope that it takes off more. I mean, it started out, the kind of inspiration for Chariot's really strange. Like I've wanted to do a sci-fi LARP for a while. I actually originally envisioned this as a blockbuster game. And I just didn't have the resources, because to run a blockbuster LARP, to run something really high production, you need a venue before you can have a Kickstarter. And to get a venue, you need insurance. To get a venue, you need money to lock down the venue. And I didn't have it. Like, I had lost my job. And even if I had still been employed full time, we're talking like $6,000-$7,000 in some instances to lock down the kind of space you need. So I just didn't have that kind of capital. So it's one of those, it takes money to make money. It's a big risk too. With Chariot LARP, it cost me nothing because I put all of the materials up on the Geek Initiative. To stream on Twitch, all of the tools I need for that are free. And so I was able to just kind of create and put it out there. And hopefully it can also continue at conventions where I can run like the continuation live. So people who want to come and meet up and play what happens when we do actually meet and go on the spaceship, are welcome to do that, both as a continuation or as a standalone. So that's what I envision doing like at Gen Con next year. So no matter what happens, I'm pretty sure that we're going to have a run like that at Gen Con, which will be really fun.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun and a really unique experience.
Yeah, it's, sci-fi is a really hot genre right now for live action role-playing games. I actually love historical stuff more, and I'm working on historical LARPs as well, but sci-fi made the most sense for the digital format. And so as soon as I had the idea to do it online, it just made sense, and there are...
Wow.
Yeah, there are challenges or technical hang-ups. I'm working on, an old MacBook, which is not ideal for streaming. So people are constantly like, oh, the sound is rough. Because what I'm doing is they call into Google Hangouts, the players do, and then I'm broadcasting the Hangout onto Twitch. And so that takes some computer power, and that takes some like sound mixing software and stuff that I just don't have on this computer. So I'd love to get to the Kickstarter level because I'd love to get the equipment that I need to do a really good job with it. I'm just not there yet. It is my full-time job, so like the ticket sales are going to paying my GMs and paying the bills. So, I hope it can grow. I'm really hoping to fill the last of those seats so that I can say, okay, enough people are interested, we're going to do it. But when I launched it, the cool thing was I didn't really advertise it. I just posted a link on my personal Facebook page. And I have like a professional page set up for the Geek Initiative. Now I have one for Chariot LARP. I have a professional page set up for myself. All I did was post it on my personal page. And the first 2 runs sold out immediately. So it was amazing. Like I went to bed thinking, is anyone going to do this? And then the first 2 runs sold out. So there was a huge interest at the beginning. It's being talked about a lot. But now we're getting into that stage where we need to, actively promote it. We need to really consider crowdfunding. And I do have a background in marketing, so, I'm totally there for that. But it's time to, like, expand the team and really grow. So it's scary, but it's also really exciting.
Well, I applaud you. This is an amazing idea and an amazing effort that you're putting into it. How long have you been working on Chariot LARP?
I've been working on the concept for this generational ship for about 1.5 years. It just wasn't working in development as a blockbuster game, right? Because a sci-fi LARP can be really hard to do as a high production in-person experience.
Sure.
When you think about a show or an experience like Star Trek, right? The makeup for the aliens and the things you need to do to immerse yourself into thinking you're on a different location.
Right.
There's a really fantastic blockbuster LARP called Event Horizon, which takes place out in California. And that game, it looks like you're in an alien landscape based upon the location. And so they have the perfect location, the perfect idea for it, right? Mm-hmm. I live near Philadelphia, so I don't have that. And I really wanted my game to be on a ship. And I wanted to be on a ship to do my own thing, right? I don't want to do like a copy of another LARP that's out there. So the whole idea, right, the whole premise is to have it take place on the ship. And that just was not working. The location was really hard. And then I realized, what if it happens on Earth before you leave, right? So Chariot LARP actually has come to help people deal with some grief. I play a character called Captain Emily O'Sullivan, and one thing she doesn't usually have in common with the other characters is she's like got boxes in the background at the beginning of the game. It's just me on a laptop in my bedroom, right? So I've got boxes and bins, and as the game progresses, or at least how it did in the alpha test, I packed up these boxes. Like, she was ready to go. She's like, I don't want to deal with Earth. And it kind of helped me, like, deal with why, in real life, I might confront grief or push it off. And it's been really fascinating and insightful to grapple with that.
Now, you said that people in the LARP are going to be living and dying together. Now, does that mean that this isn't a deep sleep kind of mission? This is a generational ship kind of situation?
Exactly. It's a generational ship mission. I'm not going to say no to the possibility of, a deep sleep scenario, because another cool thing about Chariot LARP is the world is built as we go. And we have a master lore building document. So if any player wants to add to it, it's a Google Doc and they just add a suggestion. And then I accept or reject it. So there are some things that are locked, right? Like aliens are locked. So if we do a cool Kickstarter, one of the goals would be to have an alien show up. And I have a professional makeup artist in mind who would make a really cool sudden guest appearance as, an alien. It would be really fun to unlock that. But we had one character in the alpha test who actually invented the engine of the ship. So I wrote that into the canon lore. So as a player, you're helping to build the lore of the world as you go. And each run takes place on its own ship. And each run represents its own ship. So Chariot LARP Alpha, which was our test, was the first ship to leave. And the Earth in this setting, it's war-torn. So like my character who's in the military, she never even thought she was going to live to see, the next 10 years of her life, let alone captain a spaceship. And then they learn, there are more ships. There's Chariot Beta. So I'm trying to avoid an issue that I've seen in a lot of campaign games that have multiple runs, or a lot of blockbuster LARPs that have become campaign games, which is how do you reconcile different runs of the same game, returning players, how do you reconcile that in the master lore. I'm trying to do that by saying they're actually all different ships in the same universe. And one of the big mysteries that I hope to answer, again, hopefully as part of a future Kickstarter, is why do most of the ships have a Captain Emily O'Sullivan? How is she all these places at once, right? What's going on? Is it alternate realities? What's happening there? So that question is another one that people have started to ask, and there is a real answer to it. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. There's a real answer to it, and a couple of interesting answers have been posited. And a friend of mine actually, because I was trying to figure it out too after I'd done it, I was like, I don't want to run into this problem that I've seen other LARPs have. And a friend actually gave me a great suggestion. It was so good that I deleted his comment on Facebook and messaged him, and I'm like, don't tell anyone, but that's the reason. And I'm going to use it, and that's why I deleted your comment. And he was overjoyed that he contributed so much to this. But yeah, there's a really, really super awesome, cool, super secret reason why Emily is on multiple ships. So sometime towards the end of the runs we have scheduled, that will be revealed, so you can keep watching to find out.
Wow, this sounds like a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to be checking into this for myself. So if people want to reach out to you and find out more about Chariot LARP and the Geek Initiative, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so to sign up, first of all, you can go right to geekinitiative.com, and you'll see a menu at the top that says LARPs. And if you go into that menu, you'll see everything you need to know about the different safety procedures that we have for the game, about the LARPs we're producing, and about Chariot LARP itself. You can also look us up on Facebook. It's Chariot LARP, or just facebook.com/Chariot LARP. And my whole team actually monitors the inbox over on Facebook. And lastly, you can get a hold of us by emailing us at tgilarps@gmail.com.
Okay, great. And we'll have links to all of that in our show notes. And you can find the show notes at ourturnpodcast.com. So thank you for coming on, Tara. It has been wonderful talking to you, and I wish you the best of luck with your Chariot LARP and with the Geek Initiative. They both sound like great programs.
Thank you so very much for having me.
My pleasure.
This is Patrick Hillier, the Oprah, the Hillier Gamer, and you're listening to Our Turn, Women on Gaming Podcast.
The Dice Tower Network is a proud supporter of the Jack Vassal Memorial Fund. The board gaming community is kind and generous, and this fund was created to provide financial assistance to members of the board gaming community in their time of need. If your game is turned upside down and you need assistance, please visit jackvassal.org/apply. Find out how we can help.
So now we're getting into the meat of the podcast, and our hot topic for today is beautiful art in games. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Board Game Blitz, who recently just did an episode on board game art, which I thought was kind of funny because we had it on our schedule for the very next episode. I don't know how they do their schedules or, how they pick their topics, but we have ours planned out for, several weeks. And so it's just so funny that we're both talking about this at the same time. So, but, there's always plenty of room for people to talk about same topics. So that's why we decided to go ahead and keep doing this as it was scheduled. So today, Sarah and I are going to talk about some of our favorite games and why we like the art in them. And these aren't necessarily games that we've talked about a whole lot either as our favorite games, but I think we picked them because they're our favorite games art-wise, not necessarily play-wise. Although these are great games play-wise too.
Yeah, actually, the first one I'm going to talk about is my favorite game. It's just I haven't played it recently, so that's why I haven't talked about it.
Oh, okay. So go ahead. All
right. Well, the first one that I absolutely love the art in, and it is my favorite game, is Seasons. It was one of the early games that we got when we got into the hobby in 2012, and I just absolutely loved it. It did a lot of what Magic the Gathering did, but better because you didn't have random packs, but it had the same kind of feel mechanically, and the art is just, it's gorgeous. It's hard to explain. It's beautiful fantasy art, has a little kind of tweak to it. Like some of it seems a little on this like more mechanical side, like maybe a little steampunky, but not fully. So it's still very fantasy and fantastical. Some of it's just downright cute. They've got familiars in the game, and I'm like, I want one of those familiars. Can I have one? I can't afford a dog, but maybe I can have that little dragon thing. I think it's a dragon. I don't know. I love this game so much that I commissioned Julie Okahara, who did the artwork for Project Dreamscape, which I also like, and I'll talk about in a little bit. I commissioned her to do our art piece inspired by Seasons. And so I had her take lots of pictures of the game, and she did it so that the piece of art is broken into quadrants like the game board. So it's through the seasons. Forgot the order already, but I think it goes winter, spring, summer, fall, clockwise around. And it uses, she had to put the large icon for each of those seasons on it. And then I had her just take pictures of the familiars, and I said, just draw something inspired by them. And it's just so cute. So I love Seasons. I love the art. It really just draws me in to the game, because when you're playing the game, a lot of times you're just really focused on the mechanisms. What's going to combo with what? How can I get more points? But if you stop and just take a breath and just look at it, this is also why I'm playing the game. Not just because I get this high strategy of trying to make these combos work, but I get to look at this gorgeous thing on my table, and it's all of it's really nicely done.
Okay. I haven't played Seasons, and I haven't actually even seen it on the table, so I'd love to get a look at it because I have heard about the art. Another one that I haven't played or seen that I've heard about the art on is Ashes, Rise of the Phoenixborn.
Yes, that's another really pretty one.
Is it? Yeah, I haven't played that one yet either.
I haven't either, but I've seen pictures of that one, and it looks really nice.
Right. So the first game that made me really sit up and go, wow, that's gorgeous, was Euphoria, Build a Better Dystopia, which I really enjoyed this game anyway. It is difficult to get to the table because it's a worker placement game, but I think the rule book wasn't well written.
Yeah, it's a little hard to learn.
And so it's a little hard to learn and a little hard to teach. But it's a good game. And the art just augments the game tremendously. It's gorgeous. It clearly defines the board, the sections of the board, but it also does a great job of blending them together.
Yep.
So they look like you look like you're looking at the land of Euphoria. It's an Art Deco art style. It's very distinctive. And the art on the board is absolutely gorgeous. The cards all make sense. They go with the art, even though they're a little different. The artifacts that you're trying to collect almost look like photos of the artifacts, but they're kind of photos that have been drawn.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but Euphoria was the first game where I went, oh my, I like this. And to me, the art helps to immerse you in the game. And I am very much an immersive gamer. If you've ever gone over to Cardboard Republic and listened to their show or looked at their content, they have different gaming archetypes that they talk about. And I am very much an immersive gamer. If I can get immersed in a game and get into it and have fun and feel like I'm, like earlier I was talking, if I can feel like I'm in the sub and in a panic and trying to fix these leaks or put out these fires, I'm going to have a great time. And Euphoria, the whole point of the game is you're an awakening leader in this dystopia, and your job is to keep your workers dumb and happy. And so that in itself is very tongue-in-cheek, but it's a great game. And the artwork only makes it better. If it didn't have this gorgeous artwork, I don't think this game would have done as well as it did. So yeah, the artwork is absolutely important in a lot of games, and I think Euphoria is one of the best examples of it.
Yeah, it's a good one. And I think for me, I'm not quite as much of an immersive gamer as you, because I do, not that I focus more on the strategy of it, but if a game is solid mechanically, I'll play it even if it's dry as a rock. I mean, there are some games where the art has turned me off, but I think for that it's more if it looks, I don't know, unpolished or something. But that's why for my second choice, I went a little different, because it's not about being gorgeous. It actually is about being funny, because I think there's different ways to draw someone into a game through art. Granted, I think a lot of us are drawn to gorgeous because it's easy to be awed by something that looks amazing. But Villagers and Villains is also one of the earliest games that I've got, and I love it. It doesn't unfortunately get to the table much. It's got a little quirkiness to it, but the artwork is funny. It's got that cartoony, it's got an art style that I know I've seen somewhere else before, but it's a fantasy themed setting, and it's just humorous and quirky and oddball, and it's not over the top, but every time I play it, it makes me smile. It's different, and I think that's also where I appreciate it, because after a while, I do get a little tired of all of the fantasy games. It sometimes feels like they all have the same gorgeous art, and it all just kind of blends after a while. So for me, if something is also different and it catches my eye and can immerse me into the game and the gameplay, because as Villagers and Villains is you're trying to build up a village, but you're also being attacked by monsters at the same time. So you have to build up your militia to defend, or you're going to get overrun by monsters. But you might have a drunk hero, because that's all you could afford is this guy who's barely got his armor on and a tankard in one hand. So it's funny, and yeah, like I said, it works because it pulls you into the story it's trying to create.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to back up just a little bit. I don't think we mentioned any of the artists in these games. So in Seasons, it's Xavier Gunifrey Duran and Stephanie Gantias.
Yeah. It might be Stefani.
Yeah, it might be.
Apologies.
Apologies. Yes, we do not mean to disrespect your names. For Euphoria, the artist was Jackie Davis, and I am working on trying to get her on the show. I would love to talk to her.
That would be awesome. And then for Villagers and Villains, it's C. Aaron Creeder. He designs and does his own art. So he's a one-man band.
Right, kind of like Ryan Lucat.
Yeah.
He does his own. Yeah, he does his own art and design as well. And he designed Artifacts Inc.
Yep.
and Above and Below and Near and Far.
And was it Iron City? Something like that. His first one, I think it was called Iron City.
Okay.
But yeah.
The next game that made me, I literally bought this game because I fell in love with the art, and it's Yedo. Yedo is a game that takes place in feudal Japan, and apparently Tokyo used to be called Yedo.
Yep.
And the board is this, you're looking down on the city of Yedo, and so the city is divided into different districts. And the art for all of these is beautiful. The art on the cards is gorgeous. The iconography is wonderful. And so the artist for Yedo is Franz Vowinkle. And it was designed by Thomas van de Ginst and Wolf Plank. It does have an expansion, which I don't own, and I just discovered it had an expansion like today.
Oh, really?
So I need to find out how to get my paws on that, because this is a fantastic game. It's very immersive because of the art, and I can think that an expansion must only make it better.
I would hope so. Yeah, I own this game. We've only played it a couple times. I think we got it a little too early for our development as gamers. So when we first played it, we were really overwhelmed by it.
It is not an entry-level game.
No, but I'm glad we've held on to it, because I think it's time to get it back to the table, see if we do better with it. I mean, now that we're designing games, I think we're better at some games anyways.
Definitely.
So,
and you like worker placement games.
Yes. And that's why we got it. It was highly recommended. We enjoyed the few worker placement we had played at the time, but we still hadn't played that many. So we need to try this again now, especially now that you say there's an expansion. We need to see if that's a good one to get.
Yeah. This game was introduced to me by my friend Kale. Hi, Kale. And he pulled this out, and I looked at the box and I went, wow.
Yeah.
And then he pulled out the board and I went, oh, wow. And then I looked at the cards and oh my goodness. So yeah, I just instantly fell in love with this game. And the next time I went to the game store, I bought it.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I absolutely am in love with Yedo as far as the art goes. So now you're switching gears a little bit to talk about a different type of art style, but I enjoyed this game too because of the art. Go ahead.
Right. I know, again, we said beautiful artwork, but I started thinking about it. Again, I'm drawn to games often more for the mechanisms. So I really had to think hard about the art that I took note of, because I do tend to gloss over, oh yeah, it's another beautiful fantasy game, because I've seen so many beautiful fantasy games. Now, not to say that those still aren't good, but again, what was unique to me, and I love the art in Ghost Love Candy. And Danny Devine, he's the designer and artist. He has a really cool, unique style that I love his style. And it's got that cutesy, kind of cartoony. And every time we've played it, people get so into the game. They're like, oh, I want to be Mr. Toppington this time. I mean, like, they get into the playing a ghost. You got 9 cards that have the same ghost on it, and yet people are starting to come up with voices and characters. And then they get into the kids because they're like, oh, they're so unique. Because, I mean, one of the things that Danny did really well with is diversity. In all of the different kids that he drew, it's not a bunch of white kids. You got boys and girls. You got all sorts of ethnicities, and tall, skinny, overweight. I mean, it's diverse, and it just, I don't know, it's so nice to see that. And then, like I said, it just pulls the players in. They're like, oh, my ghost is gonna go haunt the werewolf. Oh, and they really get into it. And it's just so much fun. And so again, it's not that, oh my God, you could sell this as a painting for a museum, but it really brings you in and makes the game more immersive and more fun and more enjoyable.
Absolutely. One of the games that I chose to talk about tonight, I chose not because the artwork is so wonderful, which it is. I mean, this next game is Beth Sobel.
Oh, yeah.
So Beth Sobel is a fantastic game artist.
Yes.
And the one I'm talking about here is Trickster Champions of Time. And I bought it. I actually backed it on Kickstarter, not only because the art was so gorgeous. I had never played a trick-taking game when I backed this, so I didn't know how well the game was going to play or not, because I had no experience with trick-taking games. But I looked at the art, and the characters in the game are so diverse. There's men and women, not only different ethnicities that you would see here in the United States, but different ethnicities from around the world. So you're not just seeing a black person and an Asian person. You're seeing someone from India, you're seeing a Sikh, or you're seeing someone from Mexico who's a magician. You're seeing African Americans, or you're seeing Africans.
Yeah.
You know, and I couldn't name the exact cultures, but she must have done a ton of research on how to draw these different characters, and you can almost hear some of them talking to you. You know, when we're playing, the guard is an African American woman, and you can just see her. You can almost see her tapping her nightstick in her hand, like, "Don't mess with me, don't mess with me." I mean, you can just hear her saying that, and you can see the magician. Just the way she does the art, you can almost see the dove that the magician's working with flitter off the card.
It's just so lifelike. Like, it feels like it's just going to fly right off the card. And I have to say, I almost backed this because of her art, and we do not like trick-taking games. So this almost got me to back it because of the art. And I have done that for games before, but every time I've done it because of the art, Draco Magi comes to mind. I love the dragons. Didn't like the game at all. So I've gotten a little more cautious. So maybe one of these days I can play it with you so I can see whether or not I like it. But yeah, her art on it is I just want like a portfolio of just those characters. Let me just get like a poster with all those characters and I put it on my wall.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's absolutely gorgeous. Another game that doesn't use necessarily art, it uses photography. And photography is a style of art.
Right.
But it uses screen captures from the show. And that's Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
It uses screen captures from the show. Mark and I are rewatching Battlestar Galactica right now. And every now and then we'll go, "Hey, that's from that card."
Yeah.
You know, "Oh, look, there's the scene from that card. Now I understand. It's been a while since we've seen this. Now I understand better that card because I just saw
That's true.
the picture in it." And yeah, as we're watching this, we love the show. We saw it when it originally aired. Now it's on Hulu, so we've gone back and we're watching it from the beginning again. And it's funny because we're going, "Oh, now that card makes more sense."
Right.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, the artwork, it makes perfect sense. But they really did a good job of going through the show,
Right.
and capturing scenes from the show and putting them on the action cards, the crisis cards,
Right.
and the loyalty cards and all of that. I mean, it just makes sense in the context of the game. And then the board, the art on the board is okay. I mean, it's very clear what each area of the ship does. It's very clear which one is a base star and which one's a battle star, which ones are Vipers and which ones are, all of that. Screen captures can be done well, or they can be done very badly.
Oh, yeah. I've seen some bad ones. Yeah.
My niece, Nicole, hi, Nicole. She recently tagged me because a game has come out on one of my favorite movies from when I was a kid, and that's Labyrinth.
Ah, yeah.
Jim Henson's Labyrinth. And she's like, "Oh, look, here's a game for Labyrinth." And I went and took a look at it. I almost bought it. And then I took a look at it on BGG and I went, "Ugh."
Yeah.
Yeah, and I watched a video of it, and they have the board is gorgeous as a piece of art. Mm-hmm. It's a terrible game board.
Yeah.
It's too busy. It's too confusing. And then towards the end of the game, all of a sudden you put these standees out, and they're screen captures from the movie, and they're not well done screen captures from the movie.
That's bad.
So, yeah, the video review that I watched said, if you want this as a collector's item, go ahead, but you're only going to play it once.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm not spending $50 on that.
Nope.
So, yeah, the art can make or break a game. I mean, an art isn't gonna make a bad game better.
No.
Absolutely not. But it will make a good game better.
Yes.
I think.
Yep.
Now, I don't think we can have a discussion about art in games and leave Scythe out.
Yeah, that's true.
Scythe has an interesting story. Like Scythe or hate Scythe. Have you played it yet?
No, haven't had an opportunity to play, but I've watched the development of it from the beginning piece of art that he posted. So
yes.
I have to say the art in that is really, really amazing.
It is. And apparently the story goes that Jamie Stegmaier saw this art and went, I got to make that into a game.
Yep.
And so he worked with the artist to turn the artist's work into this game. To me, it's a case where the art does make the game better. It's a good game. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a good, solid game. It's in my collection. I'm not getting rid of it anytime soon. But I wouldn't call it a remarkable game in that it's an exceptional game.
Right.
What makes this game exceptional is the incredible art and how that art immerses you into that world. And then you're playing a game.
Yep. Yeah, Jamie, he does a lot of things right. One of them at the top of his list is he knows how to immerse people. He picks good art, good graphic design, so that when you open the game, you are wowed by what it looks like. He knows how to present. And I would say most of his games are good, but it's just the presentation is really what takes it to that next level.
Absolutely. And two of the games that I've talked about are Jamie Stegmaier games.
Yeah, that's true.
Euphoria and Scythe.
Mm-hmm.
So
for me, Dice Forge, absolutely beautiful. How I thought it was the same artist who did Seasons, but it's the same designer, but not the same artist. The bottom of the card art blends into the board, or basically what it looks like they did one giant piece of art and overlaid it so that you know where to put the cards. Because when you slide that card into the slot of the game board, the art continues from the game board onto the art. And it's just simply gorgeous. Everything about it is just amazing. There's just not as much of it, which is why I picked Seasons for the main one to talk about. But Dice Forge, and even the box. There's times where I've seen boxes are way too busy. This is like a white marble with a giant, like, purpley pink fuchsia. I'm not good with colors, but this giant stone that looks like it's just been shoved into this piece of marble, and the contrast, the simplicity, that is beautiful to me and it stands out. And there's just, like I said, so many board game boxes now are way too busy. They're trying to cram way too much going on, and the simplicity of this box is what's beautiful to me. So I'm looking forward to them doing more expansions to see more of the art that they put into this. And it's a solid game. I love it. I mean, I think I've played it like 6 or 7 times now, because every time someone comes over, I'm like, I have to teach you this game. You have to play this game. Okay, sit down.
That's another, start a list.
Yes.
That's another one that we have to, we have to play. Another one that does the simplicity, but also has gorgeous art is Time Stories.
Yeah, that's true.
Time Stories has a white box with this strange shape on it. You're not sure if it's a robot's face or something else. Turns out it's one of the time machines. Ah. That's what that is. It's called a caisson.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that's what it's called in the game. And then when you lay out the board is black and white. I mean, it's a white board with black lines. You know exactly where to put the cards. You know exactly where the time track is. It tells you, okay, your map goes up here and these cards go over here and the scene that you're playing goes here. the art is on the cards.
Yeah.
And the cards make these panoramas, and you feel like you're in that panorama. And the panorama just goes along the bottom of the board. So when you're playing the game, you're looking at this, I think it's like a tarot-sized card, a panorama of, anywhere from 4 to 7 or 8 cards, and you're there. Mm-hmm. You're trying to figure out the situation. You're moving from space to space to space and area to area, and you turn the card over, and it gives you some text, and it tells you what the situation is, and then you have to relate that situation to your fellow players in your own words. You can't sit there and read it to them, but the art in Time Stories absolutely immerses you, and it does an awesome job of putting you into that world. I'm very interested to see how some of the fan variants on Time Stories have handled art.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have come up with their own Time Story scenarios. And so I want to see how that works and maybe get a couple of those printed and try them out.
Nice. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. Another one, there's 2 others that I kind of want to mention. Yeah. Game that just came out, my friend Amy got it. She backed it on Kickstarter, called Farlight. Have you heard of that one?
I have heard of it, and I can't remember it off the top of my head right now, but I remember seeing it. I'm blanking on what it is.
It was, I'm blanking on the name of the company, but it was from a company that has a poor reputation with Kickstarters, and I think that's why you told me you didn't back it.
Yes, I know who you're talking about now, and I can't.
Anyway, Farlight is a great game. It's a space-themed game, but the artwork, when you look at it, you go, wow, that immerses, it introduces you to this space station where it's taking place. It pulls you in, makes you feel like you're there. Mm-hmm. It's its own art style, but it's not all that different from like Yedo or Trickster. Mm-hmm. It's obviously drawn.
Yeah.
But it's almost drawn to a photographic quality.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we recently played Lewis and Clark for the first time, and I haven't reviewed that yet because I want to play it a time or two more before we review it. But the artwork in that is very good. You feel like you're out in the wilds of the American frontier. And, you're trying to get down rivers and across mountains. And you feel like you're dealing with Native Americans as you come across them. And very, very well done.
Yeah. Well, for me, I have to mention Project Dreamscape because I just absolutely love Julie's artwork.
Project Dreamscape is a gorgeous game.
Depends on who you talk to, because I've talked to people who are completely creeped out by her art style.
That's one of the things that makes it gorgeous.
I know. It's supposed to be surreal. It's supposed to kind of creep you out or put you a little on, I wouldn't say on edge, but a little bit. It's supposed to be very different. And that's what I love about Julie's art. And it's why I'm starting to fill up my house with her art, because I love how unique it is. It's such a blend, because she's from Japan, but she's got some American sensibilities. And so it's really her own style. I have not seen any. Yes, it has some of the Japanese influences, but
a lot of watercolors.
Yes, a lot of watercolors and big eyes, but she doesn't draw them in. They're open. So it's just love her art style, and I'm so glad I was able to work with her to do it for Project Dreamscape because it fit perfectly.
And watercolors isn't something you see in games that aren't necessarily Japanese themed.
That's very true.
Because watercolor is a big art style in Japan. So it makes sense in a Japanese themed game, but yours is not a Japanese themed game.
Nope. It's a game about dreams, in which case the watercolor works perfectly because
it does.
It's not supposed to be real life. It's supposed to be this faded, you're dreaming. Dreaming is not solid. It's not something you can touch. So it's supposed to not be solid, not be all there. And another one is Ryan Lauka, like you said before, Above and Below, the Artifacts Inc., and I think it was Iron City. I own his 2 newer ones, which is Near and Far and Islebound. Haven't played those, but He just does gorgeous art, and what draws me into his art specifically is the characters. He does really interesting, unique, again, diverse characters. Of course, he's doing fantasy world, so his diverse characters are, oh, that's a frog guy, and that's a, bird guy. So it's animal people thrown in there, but you still got diversity in the human characters as well. And then just gorgeous landscapes. It's just beautiful. And then I guess just last be lanterns. I play it more on the app, and I can't say enough about how beautiful it is in the app.
It is gorgeous in the app.
But seeing pictures of the actual board game, that's beautiful too. I just know they can do a bit more with enhancing it with the app version. But I am in love with it. If I just want something relaxing to play, it's a frequent one for me to play on my Wednesday iGame nights when I'm like, I'm not feeling too well, but you know what? We got to play Lanterns because that's just so calming.
It is.
I don't care if I win or lose. That's just so much fun.
And then, of course, it wouldn't be an episode if I didn't mention Firefly.
Of course not.
Firefly is another game that does screen captures really, really well. Mm-hmm. You absolutely immerse you in the series. You know exactly what episode that came from, and then it helps the cards make sense.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So, on Facebook, we got some comments about, I think it was Tuesday, what are some games that have art that you love? So we got a couple of comments. David Orange said Doomtown Reloaded because he likes how the art immerses the players in the story and the setting of the game.
Hi, David.
Yes, hi, David.
He's a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm. And then Susan Price said Splendor because it's pretty, the feel and look of the pieces, which I agreed. And she also brought up that her game, Kitsune of Foxes and Fools, had a comment that someone was going to buy it just for the art, even though they couldn't think of anyone to play with it. So that's one I'm going to have to look into.
I think that one, is another Japanese-themed one. And if I recall, it has some watercolor style art in it as well.
Nice.
Yeah. And then over on Board Game Geek, we also got quite a few responses. Roger. Hi, Roger. He said, I tend to think of myself not as caring much about art, but I like the feel of the portraits in the Coup cards.
Oh, yeah.
The game from the cards from Coup. And even more so, Grifters. And then he posted a picture from a version of Love Letter called Kanai Factory Edition.
Oh, yeah, that goes back to, I think, the more original art when it was just released in Japan before it became Love Letter, part of the, that series that they did, which I'm blanking on. But anyways, that's the original art.
Oh, okay. Xanthi, who's been on our show before. Hi, Xanthi. She says, I love anything by Vincent Dutrait, like Raptor. And then Lewis and Clark and Bloody Inn.
Ah, yes.
And Bloody Inn looks like it has a very distinctive art style.
Yes.
It's kind of like a painting, but it's not like a detailed painting. Mm-mm. It's kind of like an impressionistic style. Okay. And she also says the deluxe edition of Coup.
Okay.
Which also has a similar art style to Bloody Inn. And then Roger also commented that he likes the art in The Captain is Dead. I haven't seen that one. Have you?
Yeah, it's very, I think, I've seen several versions of it, but the version I think that's the final one, it's, I think, 1950s sci-fi. It's very stark, stylistic, very angular. So there's like a captain, saluting, but it's all really sharp, very sharp angles, bold colors, that kind of thing.
Okay. Richard Bright posted that he loves the art from Belfort.
Yeah, I do too.
Belfort's a good game. And the art is really immersive for that one.
Yeah.
And then Kevin posted Scythe, Anachrony, Orleans, Elysium, and Among the Stars.
Oh, yeah, Among the Stars. If you're looking for really good just sci-fi art, Among the Stars is beautiful. Kind of ranks up there with Star Realms, too. Star Realms has really great just spaceships and space. That's really good, too.
Okay. Of all these games that he's listed, the only one I've played is Scythe. And I haven't seen the others.
I played Orleans, but I don't know. I wasn't that impressed. But
okay,
no, that's just me. It's his list.
Absolutely. And then Stephanie posted, hi Stephanie, posted Ryan Lucott does a good job with Above and Below, Near and Far. Sarah agrees. I haven't played those games myself. I haven't seen them. She's also a fan of anime art, and she says, I like Heart of Crowns and The Ravens of Three Sashiri.
Yeah, those are both done
Sahashri.
by... I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but yeah, those are done by Japanime Games. The only one of Japanime Games that I have is Tanto Kore. And yeah, it's... If you like anime art, manga, it's good.
Okay. She also likes Dead of Winter, which, yes, the art in that is really good. Mark says it's very depressing.
Yes, but that's kind of what it's supposed to.
It's post-apocalyptic game. It's supposed to be depressing. But I have a hard time getting it to the table with him because he gets depressed with it. The Fox in the Forest, Mysterium. Mysterium has beautiful art. I haven't seen The Fox in the Forest, but what she posted here, it does look very, very
I've only
pretty.
seen the cover. It looks pretty.
Two of your favorites, Dice Forge and Seasons.
Yep. Oh, so glad. I'm not the only one.
And I do love the art in Red Dragon Inn, which Stephanie also listed here.
Oh, yeah.
She says the art is what drew me into that series, and I do enjoy the art in Red Dragon Inn.
Yes.
When we play it, and we've played it with as many as 8 or 9 players, because Dwayne has all of it.
Dang.
My friend Dwayne has all of it. Hi, Dwayne. And we'll make voices. I love playing. There's an ogre in there, or he's a half orc. And I think his name is Gog.
Okay.
And I love playing Gog because I get so into doing the voice and stuff like that. It's great. And then Kate says, I love the mid-century style of Tim Fowler's recent games, Paperback,
Oh, yeah.
Burgle Brothers, and The Fugitive. I hadn't heard of The Fugitive, but I have heard of Paperback and Burgle Brothers, and they're both games that I would very much like to try, but I have never seen. I don't know anybody that owns them yet, and I haven't gotten them yet.
Yeah, the art in those is very stylized. It's good.
It's like she said, mid-century style, and I do like mid-century style art as well. I also like the uniqueness of Burgle Brothers. You can actually get a form that makes it into 3 stories.
Oh, yeah.
A 3-story board. And I would love to get that. And I think trying to get that and the game is what has kind of
I honestly
made me hesitate in buying it.
Yeah, honestly, what put us off the game was that you're playing 3 levels, but it doesn't come with something that makes it 3 levels. So it seemed a little odd to us, and I've seen some amazing people have just made, like this one made a wooden 3-level board, and I was like, that's just amazing. I mean, they painted it black. It looks like the framework for a skyscraper type of building, and so yeah, if you can get that, I think it's really the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is our take on this round for art in board games. Please feel free to still post in the guild. You can either post in the discussion where we were talking about beautiful art in games, or in the thread for this episode, and let us know what your favorite art styles are and your favorite games because of the art. And let's keep that discussion going over in the guild and on Facebook.
Hey everyone, this is Sarah. If you're curious on how you can support the show, here are some ideas. If you'd like to support us financially, you can support us through Patreon at www.patreon.com/ourturnpodcast. We've switched from pay per episode to pay per month. We also have a donation button on the site for anyone wanting to do a one-time donation. We have a lot of plans to improve our audio and expand the content we provide, but we need help to do so. However, we totally understand that not everyone has the funds to support us. Thankfully, there are many non-monetary and important ways to help us. Tell a friend about the show. Really, one of the best ways to support us is to spread the word to people you know. Commenting on our posts, either on the website, Facebook, Twitter, or the Board Game Geek Guild, are very helpful for us to know what listeners think and want from our show. If you think of anyone you'd like us to interview, please let us know. We'd also appreciate any shares of our posts on social media. Take pics of you playing games and post them to any of our social media avenues. We'd love to know what you're playing and maybe take a look at playing those games too. please call our voicemail number at 916-426-2873 and leave a message or a show intro or promo. For example, you could say, "This is Sarah and it's our turn," or "This is Sarah and you're listening to Our Turn Women on Gaming." Of course, replace Sarah with your name. So there's many ways to support us, and we'd appreciate any and all of them. Thanks for listening.
All right, so now we're getting towards the end of the episode. This has been kind of a long one. But I hope you all think this was good content. I know we had fun talking about it, didn't we, Sarah?
For sure.
Yeah. And so now we're going to talk about what we're looking forward to coming up. So, Sarah, what have you got on your plate in the next week or two?
Well, coming up at the beginning of October, the first Saturday, is our Lego Club meeting. I'm hoping it's going to be a big one because we were just at the Brickfest Live event, met a lot of people, gave a lot of people our information. So we'll see if that actually turns into people at least coming to check us out. What tends to happen after these events is a whole bunch of people show up, and the next meeting, like, none of them show up.
Oh.
And then like 3 meetings later, a few of them will show back up saying, "Oh yeah, I forgot about this, but I think I'd like to join." So it takes a little while, but I'm hoping this one, I'm hoping it's not overwhelming because that was a really, really big show. I mean, It was more people. I mean, we've done the Railroad Museum shows and they get a couple, I don't know, I don't even think they get 1,000 people, maybe get a couple thousand people, but they were saying with Brick Show Live between the 2 days, it was like 15,000 people. I'm like,
wow.
That's a lot of people. And it felt like it. And I was only there on Saturday and I had to go home. Well, I couldn't stay the whole day because it was like almost like 9.5 hours. We made it about 7 hours before we called for our ride and we're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
So Lego Club meeting, I'm hoping it goes well. The struggle here is going to be making it interesting for the new people, but also we have to talk business because the Railroad Museum show used to be the Friday and Saturday after Thanksgiving. And for the first time in years, they've moved it to I think the first weekend of November. And that is making a lot of problems for our club. We have to figure out if anyone can actually do it.
Oh.
Yeah. They got new management and they're deciding all these things at the last minute. So,
oh no.
Not sure how this year is going to work out. If they're going to keep it at the beginning of November, then we can plan for it. But at this point, we've got a birthday on one day on Saturday and a wedding to go on that Sunday. So Will and I can't actively participate. If someone can pick up what, we designed, the convention center that Will and I designed, then someone can display it for us, but we can't actually help with the show. Kind of sucks. But back to games, Meeple Syrup does I'm not exactly sure what you call it, but they all get on Google Hangout and they record it. So it's kind of talking like a podcast, but they're video. I mean, was that a vidcast maybe?
Okay.
I don't know all these terms. Anywho, so they've invited me and Will to be on their October 11th show at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And the reason I bring that up is because they stream it through YouTube, so live, so people can comment on YouTube and ask questions that can then be responded to during the course of the show.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And so we'll be talking, they came up with a fantastic name that's all like super cool and scientific, and I can't remember what it was, but it's basically designing for disabilities.
Ah, okay.
So something we know a bit about.
Sure.
Yeah. And then the next Saturday after that is game design meeting. We've revised Haven's Vault. The print and play files are out there in case anybody has time, inclination, interest, and some print and play skills. You can go to my Twitter, Eurogamergirl, and it's the first pinned post at the top of my profile, a link to the Dropbox for the files. So if anyone's interested. And I have made the chits available on the Game Crafter to purchase if you so want to do that instead of trying to cut out little things or do alternate pieces.
Okay. Cool. You're going to be a busy lady.
Yeah, because I got a playtest too. Now that it's all revised, I got my copy revised, so it's playtest time.
Okay. We have a game day coming up at Great Escape Games, which is one of our friendly local game stores. And I just recently was introduced to a heavy gaming group
Ooh.
via Meetup. They're not actually part of our Meetup group that we're part of. They're separate, but they're also meeting at Great Escape that same Saturday, and that day they're playing the Gallerist. And so I have said, I want to play. And so
Nice.
I'm going to go play the Gallerist for the first time. And then I am very excited by the launch of the new Star Trek series on CBS All Access. You know, to me, it's worth this show is worth the $10 a month to get. And I probably won't be watching anything else on CBS All Access, but this show is very well worth it. Very beautifully done, very cinematic art, and the story is great. The acting is great. It fully immerses me back into the Star Trek world. It is not in the same style, art direction wise, as Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, even Enterprise. They do take their uniforms are an evolution because this series takes place between Star Trek Enterprise and the original series on the timeline. They developed their uniforms in trying to combine the two different uniforms from those two shows. So they're blue uniforms like they had in Enterprise, but they have like this gold, they called it gold foil. It's like a metallic gold weave on the uniforms, on the shoulders and on the sides of the uniforms. And that's where the department colors come in. So it's gold for command, silver for science, and then copper is for operations and security.
Interesting.
So very excited about the new Star Trek Discovery television show. I'm really enjoying that. It's got 3 episodes out as of this recording. And then I want to give a shout out to Roger and Richard and tell them thank you. They have both given me games. They've sent me games. Roger heard me talk about how I wanted to acquire my own copy of Ghost Love Candy.
Woohoo!
And so he asked if he could send me a copy, and I, of course, said, thank you. Yes, of course. Here's my address. And so I haven't played it yet, but I am hoping to get it to the table this month, and because, of course, it's October. And
let me know if you need the 2-player rules. I don't think they've been posted to Board Game Geek yet. It's one of those things that I should probably do eventually. But you can play it 2-player. Steve Jackson Games removed it. It is a little tweaked, so it's not as easy to explain, so I can understand why they took it out, but it can be played 2-player.
Okay. And then at Game Day the other day, Richard came over and handed me his copy of Kingdom Builder with the expansion.
Wow.
Yeah. And apparently he got the big box version. So he didn't need the older version. And he said, here, go play it, enjoy it. And if you want to, sell it for the podcast later, go for it. If you want to keep it, go for it. So thank you to both guys. I appreciate it. Not something expected, but very much appreciated. And it looks like Richard is getting into his own type of game design, Sarah.
Oh, what's that?
He has designed an OTP drinking game.
Okay. All right.
I want to start off by saying, please drink responsibly.
Yes,
and
please.
Do not ever drink and drive. I don't care how sober you think you feel. Don't do it. It's not worth it. That disclaimer being out of the way, he posted on Board Game Geek, so it's in our guild on BoardGameGeek.com, guild number 2600. He says, hey all, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and more than one of them have had drinking games created for them. So I thought I'd try my hand at making one for our turn. So here are the rules, and feel free to add to them if you'd like. Whenever I mention Firefly, take a drink. Mm-hmm. Whenever I say shiny, take a drink. Whenever one of our spouses, Mark or Will, is mentioned, take a drink.
Oh, yeah.
Which they've both been mentioned in this episode.
Yes, they have.
Whenever a game Sarah has designed is mentioned, take a drink. And I think they've both been mentioned in this episode.
I think so.
If a game you own is reviewed on the podcast, take a drink. If the game that was reviewed is one you've played in the last 2 weeks, take 2 drinks.
Oh.
If Lego is mentioned, take a drink.
Yes. Let's drink to Lego.
If Cathy says hi to someone, take a drink.
Oh, boy.
If the person Cathy says hi to is you, finish your drink.
Oh, boy.
If Sadie, my dog, eats a game component, you owe Cathy a drink.
Oh.
Little side note on that. When we moved into this apartment, it's a 3-bedroom apartment, and room number 3 is a game room. So if we need to leave a game set up, we can close the door.
Nice.
No more leaving it on the dining room table. So he adds after the list here, it says, that should be a good start. If you think of any new rules that would be fun, comment below so that we can add them to the list. If you're underage, driving, a teetotaler, etc., there is nothing saying you can't play with a non-alcoholic beverage. The goal here would be to see how long you can last before using the facilities.
Oh, boy.
And then he adds, maybe we'll get to play this in November at Conquest, because we're doing a live show at Conquest. At least that's our plan. I still haven't heard back from the organizer of the con yet. So once we get approval for that show, we will have more details on that here. But I just want to add, we did have an incident here in Sacramento where a radio station did a contest, very lowbrow contest. It was literally called Hold Your Wee for a Wee. Mm-hmm. And sadly, it had a bad outcome. A woman drank too much water, held it in too long, and quite literally her tissues drowned and she died as a result. So if you're doing the sober version of this contest, please don't avoid using the bathroom.
Don't hold it.
Yeah.
If you need to go, please go.
Yes, please go. Holding it in is not good for you, and it's not pleasant for anyone else either. So Thank you, Richard. That's very amusing, very funny.
Yes.
We'll try and accommodate your playing this game as much as possible going forward. And so the last thing I want to mention is that in our show notes, and we'll probably be posting this on social media as well, we have a very short survey we would like you to take to give us a little feedback on some specific things on the show. And so I will post that survey in the show notes. And then Sarah and I will also be posting it on Facebook, Twitter, and the Board Game Geek Guild. So if you could just take a few minutes to fill this out, I thought maybe if you do this, we can maybe find a couple of games that we can hold a drawing for from the people who take the survey. So we do ask for your name and email address so that if you win a game from us, I don't know what game it's going to be yet. I know I have a shrink wrap copy of Firefly Flux, but I don't know if that's going to be it yet. But we'll come up with something.
Talk.
Yeah, we'll come up with something good, and we'd very much appreciate you taking that survey. Okay. Anything else, Sarah?
I think that's. Oh, I've been enjoying Orville.
Have you?
I guess it's. I wouldn't say the poor man's version of Star Trek, but I'm enjoying it a lot.
Okay. We don't have cable, so I haven't been watching it.
Yeah, I've been watching it on Hulu.
Oh, is it on Hulu? Okay.
Yeah, it's on Hulu. The 3 episodes, 4, I'm losing track, but it's been very enjoyable. It's not like always laugh out loud funny, but it takes a lighter tone to the whole Star Trek like experience. So
I will give that a look.
Yeah, definitely been enjoying it.
Good. All right.
So yeah, that's it.
All right. Until next time, on behalf of the entire Our Turn podcast crew, that was our turn.
Now it's yours.
Thank you for listening. This episode was recorded on October 2nd, 2017, and is written and produced by Cathy Ford and Sarah Reed with assistance from Tara Clapper and Mark Ford. Next time we will discuss convention games. We want and encourage your questions, comments, and feedback. Please call 916-426-2873 and leave us a short voicemail, or send an email to feedback@ourturnpodcast.com. Our theme music was composed by Adriana Crickle. Incidental music was provided by Ben Sound. Please check out our show notes to learn more about these talented artists. The material in this episode is copyrighted under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. If you want to learn more about the games discussed in this episode, please visit our website at ourturnpodcast.com/episode 49. You can find a list of the games along with their links to their listing on BoardGameGeek.com. We are proud members of the Dice Tower Network. You can find out about other shows on the network like Board Games Insider, Four Corners of the Board, or Out of Game by going to dicetowernetwork.com. Thank you for your support. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends about us.
Attention Our Turn listeners. Please set your super secret invisible Our Turn Firefly decoder rings to 5 for this week's secret message.